Right, we bring you more on the story. We cross to our reporter Samkele Maseko, who is at the King Shaka International Airport in KwaZulu-Natal. A very good afternoon to you, Samkele. Lots of moving parts here as the late ambassador's body lands in South Africa. In terms of logistics and the flight, what is the latest?
Well, Paul, we were told that there was a slight delay in Johannesburg on that SAA, South African Airways aircraft that is bringing the family and the remains of former Ambassador King Nathi Mthethwa to South Africa and to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They have landed at OR Tambo International Airport through Air France, and they are coming to the province of KwaZulu-Natal through the SAA aircraft that is bringing them here. Then ultimately, when they land at this King Shaka International Airport, the remains of Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa will then be brought here to the statue of King Shaka. As you remember the Zulu history, King Shaka was raised by the Mthethwa family, which meaning that King Shaka was the orchestrator of the Zulu nation, and he was brought up by the Mthethwa family. It will be symbolism that the son of the Mthethwas, Nkosi Nathi, is back from abroad. He will be coming to Ukbonga Emswanini to King Shaka here at the King Shaka International Airport. Then the remains will then move up north of the province to KwaMbonambi, Kusizwe Sakamthethwa, where he will ultimately be laid to rest on Sunday. But I am joined by ANC veteran politician and former provincial chair of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Sibusiso Ndebele, who worked extensively with the likes of Nathi Mthethwa, who were working within the eThekwini region at the time. Baba Ndebele, just the essence of the heritage and the history of Nkosi Nathi Mthethwa. We had worked with him extensively whilst you are still within the youth structures of the Youth League when you were the provincial chair of the ANC within the province. What can you say about Nkosi Nathi Mthethwa?
Well, at this time, what is important for us is to feel what the Mthethwa family are feeling, what Dr. Sfiso Buthelezi and the family of Buthelezi are feeling, what Madam Mrs. Mthethwa is feeling. We were in such a situation before, and one could have died in Australia, one could have gone to India and come back in a coffin. It's a most terrible, heart-rending experience that families are going through. We as the ANC also are having that very, very sad feeling where a 58-year-old son of this province who had so much before him has now passed on, and we are now talking about him. We talk about him and we also talk about his body. We're no longer talking about the whole person. We are now awaiting his body. He has experienced what I call the loneliness of a long distance runner, where you feel you must go on, but you have run and you feel you have run your distance. It is a distressing weekend that we are going through, but we hope we will feel through. But our sympathies and all our thoughts are with the family at this time.
When you were growing the structures of the African National Congress, getting that electorate of the province to respond to the ANC's call from the Inkatha Freedom Party, which you ultimately took over the province under your tenure, when you look at the role the likes of the Youth League, Nkosi Nathi Mthethwa, Sthembiso Mshengu, Hlakanipho Ntombela, Malusi Kigaba, that entire Sifiso Sonjita, that generation of youth leaguers within the province, the role they played within the specific region of eThekwini, which has got the biggest voter bloc, what was their role?
You know them very well, Isaiah Nchangase and all of them. And of course, our going forward or not going forward was the youth was critical to whether we win or not win, to whether we surrender or not surrender. It was the youth that was in the forefront, particularly those across the Tugela. And Nathi Mthethwa was one of those across the Tugela that for a long time was like a no-go area for the ANC. But in fact, it's not only being Ishoshozela that won the day. It was also the wisdom and the maturity to start talking, negotiating. At the time it was unthinkable. ANC, IFP, ANC Youth League, IFP Youth Brigade, sitting together and talking. And the Nathi Mthethwa was in the forefront of that. Those talks started. And once you've got the youth buying into peaceful method, then the battle was more than one.
I want to draw you to an anecdote that transpired within those years. I read on social media at the time where Umsinga was a no-go area for the African National Congress. But it was the young youth league leaders like France Nathi Mthethwa, Athazwane, who has since left the African National Congress, and many others who went to that particular area to speak to Inkosi, to allow them to enter that particular area. How was it when you had these young leaders going into so-called no-go areas, knowing that they may not come out of those areas alive?
You see, what is painful is that sometimes there is a less understanding of how difficult the situation was at the time. If you think of Umsing, if you think of, well, let's talk about Pesha or Tugela, for instance. The only branch that we could actually have across Tugela was at the University of Zululand. That's all, at the university campus. Slowly then Eskalin, then slowly Ngwelezane. Then when you come this way, Midlands, Msinga was one of those areas that you just, of course, even in the best of times, Msinga was known for faction fights and all that sort of thing. So to actually have the ANC penetrating there, it could only be on the shoulders of the youth.
Lastly, Babundebele, how would South Africans and ANC members, the ordinary rank and file, remember this gallant son of the soil of Isizwe Sakambunambi, Isizwe Sakamthethwa?
It's a terrible sacrifice that has happened. It's a terrible pain, but like I said, the loneliness of a long-distance runner is only known by him. That loneliness where you feel that I cannot turn this way or that way and so forth. It's a very painful experience. But we must glory at the perseverance, at the tenacity that took us from that time to this time. And he comes back to a free South Africa and to a free KwaZulu-Natal, a multi-party KwaZulu-Natal. And that's what we wanted all the time. And he must say it's fulfilled.
I want to be a bit controversial. I know you don't want me to be, but I'm going to take you back to 2005. National General Council, University of Pretoria. You are the provincial chair of KwaZulu-Natal. France Nathi Mthethwa stands up, branch delegate from Clearwater, eThekwini region, and speaks about the ANC having taken a flawed decision of the removal of the deputy president then, who later became president. How do you take it as the provincial chair of KwaZulu-Natal, knowing the political machinations that were going on in the organization at the time?
But that is something that perhaps you, when I say you, even in your profession, you don't quite appreciate. South Africa is a democratic country. The ANC is one of the most democratic organizations that you can think of. Can you think of any other organization where that could happen? The chairperson is this way and the youth and everybody else is that way and so forth. It happens, and you survive that, and you go to Polokwane, and you go after Polokwane, and we created the instrument that we have created that is no longer Abantu Baga, these are the people of so and so, and these are the people of so and so. I think Nathi Mthethwa was very instrumental in that, in saying, if you say you are democratic, let's test that democracy. And they tested it to the full. And I think we passed that test.
Thank you very much, thank you very much. That is Ambassador Sbu Ndebele, who was also the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal and former provincial chair, who worked with the likes of the Youth League of France Nathi Mthethwa back in the days of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, like Isaiah Ntshangase, as he said, like Sthembiso Mshengu, like the likes of Nhlakanipho Ntombela, Malusi Nkanyezi Ikikaba, Athazwane, and many others who were within the ranks of the ANC Youth League that went up head to head with the IFP Youth Brigade within the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Speaking about how he compares the life of an ambassador to a long distance marathon runner, that it's a very lonely distance.
Yeah, very well. Samkele, as you make reference to the format, the order of the day, speaking about some of the symbolic gestures that are set to take place as the body arrives and lands there, talk to us a little bit about some of the traditional rituals that will be conducted. We know that the Mthethwa family performed a ritual in France at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Will similar ones be performed?
that particular ritual of going to the Hyatt Hotel in France, they call it in isiZulu, ukuyolanda umphefumulo ngehlahla. They went with a leaf to go and fetch the soul of Nathi Mthethwa, to go and fetch his spirits from that particular hotel room on the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel. Ukuyolanda umphefumulo wakhe ngesizulu, to bring it back home, to go with them to his residence in France, and ultimately with that leaf or ihlahla, they will be ultimately coming back with it home to the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They will be coming with his remains here to the statue of King Shaka Zulu, here, who is the orchestrator of the Zulu nation, ukuzobonga emswanini. Then ultimately from here, they will move with the cortege and move up north of the province, ngaphesheya koThukela, where ultimately they will be going to where he hails from, Kamthethwa, kwisizwe sakambonambi, where he ultimately be laid to the Nazareth Baptist Church Customs, where they lay the mortal remains of their loved ones on a Sunday, because Saturdays is Sabbath day for them. They go to church on a Saturday. Then ultimately on Sunday, that is when they lay their beloved ones to rest, and that is the format that will ultimately be followed. There are representatives of the African National Congress here. I did earlier on see Jeff Khateba, the convener of the PTT. I am also seeing Nomakuku Mgati, who is also here, who is a representative of the provincial task team of the African National Congress, to receive the mortal remains of the son of the soil, ultimately one of the pioneers of the ANC Youth League when it came to its revival post the apartheid era, when they had their very conference in KwaBele in Mpumalanga, where ultimately Lulu Johnson was elected as the president of the ANC Youth League, and that subsequently saw various other presidents of the Youth League being elected. And ultimately, once you've come to the history of the ANC Youth League, when Malusi Kigaba was elected as the president of the Youth League, the front runner of that particular Congress of the Youth League at the time, Nathi Mthethwa, was meant to be elected as the president of the ANC Youth League. But there was an about turn, and then ultimately Malusi Kigaba became the leader of the generation, became the president of the ANC Youth League, of that generation of Nkosi Nathi Mthethwa, that featured the likes of Fikile Mbalula, that featured the likes of the late Songizo Mjangile, that featured the likes of Fikile Mbalula Vuta, the current Secretary General of the African National Congress. And that just tells you that that particular generation that was heavily involved in the revival of the ANC Youth League now sits at the top echelons of power within the ANC and ultimately the government within the country.
Very well. Thank you very much. As we bring you up to speed there, our reporter Samkele Maseko giving us a sense of the history and what is set to happen as the body of the late ambassador lands at the airport.